Hi, everybody. I'm Chef Diana here with our partner Schmidt Brothers Cutlery. We are so happy to be presenting this dish with you tonight and using this beautiful, beautiful set of artisan knives. And I have had the honor of teaching some Schmidt Brothers Cutlery classes before. And every time I work with a set of knives, I say, oh my gosh, this is my favorite. This is my favorite set. This is a beautiful set. I love it. And then I teach another class. I'm like, nope, this is it. This is my favorite set. And then tonight, I've been playing around with this set, this beautiful 7-piece artisan set. And I'm like, all right, this is it for sure. This is my favorite set. But they all are unique. And the one tonight, I'm super excited to introduce you to. And we have a delicious date night, steak night. And I'm here, Mary, it's our first date.
It's our first date in the chat. Hi, everybody.
So happy to be working with you, Mary. And so Mary will put lots of links and things and stuff in the chat, really useful information. We also have a really exciting announcement about a giveaway on April 24th. Should we just throw that out there now, Mary?
Yes. Oh, let's start off the class with something fun. Okay, so not only are we making date night steak tonight with Diana and with me, but in fact, the Cutting Edge Club is doing a giveaway. If you've already signed up for the Cutting Edge, you're automatically already involved for the drawing, but you have to attend class to claim your prize on April 24th. It is up to a $250 value of, in fact, knives.
Wow.
This is huge. I know, look at Diana's
That's
face,
big.
she's all in.
I'm in. Okay, so that information will be in the chat,
Yep.
and we're gonna go ahead and get started here pretty quick. Schmidt Brothers Cutlery, again, we just love the product, love working with your knives, doing these beautiful, beautiful dishes, and I'm really excited about the dish we're making tonight. So Schmidt Brothers is really really on a mission to sharpen your passion for cooking, and nothing better to do that with than good tools. So again, super happy, great craftsmanship. If you don't already own Schmidt Brothers Cutlery, you should, you'll want to after this class. Just craftsmanship is just gorgeous. These knives tonight, this 7-piece artisan set is made out of Japanese steel, and they're just gorgeous and sturdy. And we have 7 total. Comes with this really wonderful sharpener, which works fabulous. So we have the block that it comes in for storage, proper storage, and then the 7 knives. We've got a standard chef's knife, a santoku, which we'll introduce a little bit later on, a hocho knife, which is meant for a little more precision cutting, maybe thin slices of fish and things like that, really fine cuts on vegetables. So that's a really handy one that you don't often see, and obviously has a ton of other uses as well. And then a serrated bread knife back here, and then a really nice little, really nicely sized paring knife. So that's the set along with the sharpener and the block, and it's just a really lovely set. So we tonight are making a bunch of stuff. I love a good piece of meat, and this is it's a date night meal, okay? It's sort of an indulgent meal a little bit. So I love a good piece of ribeye. Ribeye is actually my favorite steak. The reason it's my favorite steak is because it does have a significant amount of fat, meltable fat that flavors, moisturizes the tenderness in the meat. It's so good. So I love a ribeye or a prime rib. And then my husband has been making, to go alongside of our prime rib or ribeye, same part of the cow, creamed spinach for years. And it's one of my favorite meals, like creamed spinach. I just love it so much. And so what's fun about this tonight is we are doing the steak, the ribeye steak, but we're making it with a kale gratin. So gratin literally means topped with cheese or breadcrumbs and then browned on top. That's the definition of gratin,
Yeah,
or
that's
a gratiné.
my ideal date night.
What's that?
That's my ideal date night. Cheese browned on top, like
seriously,
that's it.
Right?
Exactly.
Delicious. So I love the variation on this. One of my favorite meals, the red meat with the creamed spinach. We're doing the meat with the kale gratin tonight. And it's, you know what? Sorry, honey, but the kale gratin is probably my new favorite. And it's so much easier. It's so much easier to make. Super simple. So, and then, oh my gosh, there's more. We have more. So then to top it off, we're going to top the steak off with a little Caesar compound butter. So compound butter is basically just a flavored butter. They're most often savory, but they can be sweet sometimes. And we're doing a Caesar compound butter. So like Caesar dressing, all the components that go into a Caesar dressing are going into this delicious butter, and we let it sit for a little while, and then we slice that, and while our steak is still warm, we put it on top of the steak, and it just kind of melts into the steak. Like the steak needs more flavor or more fat, but you know what? It's just like icing on the cake. It just sort of elevates it, takes it to another level. So really, really fun, really exciting dish, and definitely going to be a staple in my household from now on.
So funny. Paulette is cracking me up in the chat. She's saying, my husband in the background, this sounds really familiar. Paulette, in fact, made this last night.
Great minds think alike, right? Here we go. So we're going to start with the compound butter, and I'm going to do garlic. There's three additions of garlic in the recipes collectively tonight. But the two of them have minced garlic. So lessons tonight that we're really focusing on are mincing, a proper mince, which takes a little precision, a little time, sometimes some patience until you feel very comfortable with your mince. And then also some like smashing. We're going to do a garlic paste. We're going to do an anchovy paste. So those are two techniques that we're going to focus a lot on throughout the class. Practice on your mincing skills. So I'm going to start with my garlic paste. And with the garlic paste, I am going to use the not the serrated knife. I'm going to use the chef's knife because I want to use this beautiful, flat, heavy-duty side of the knife here for making my garlic paste. So I like to chop the garlic roughly first, carefully. Also, we were talking today when we were all drooling over, not literally, but almost drooling over these knives.
I mean, literally sometimes.
That when you do purchase new knives in your household, or you have your knives sharpened, now these knives will hold an edge for quite some time, but if you have the knife sharpened, you should tell everybody in your household, or anybody who does any cooking in your household, that you have had your knife sharpened. Or I have a new set of knives, so be careful. Because sometimes we pick up knives and they're not always super sharp after we've been using them for a long time and haven't had them sharpened, so it's always a good thing to do that. So really, really be careful. So if you do buy a new set of knives or have them sharpened, make sure that you tell everybody. So just a rough chop on that, and then I'm going to add a coarse kosher salt. And I'm going to use the flat side of the knife, and I'm just going to come across, and that salt is going to help really break up the chunky garlic, and we're making a paste. So some of these recipes tonight, it's not terrible to come across sort of a larger piece of garlic, but for some, we want the garlic to sort of blend in a little more uniformly, and we want it to be a little smoother. So see how that coarse salt just kind of breaks it up.
Diana, is there a world in which we do use a garlic mincer, but then use the side of like a large knife like this to create this sort of paste?
Do you mean like one of those little garlic crushers?
Yeah, totally.
You know, we don't see those too much anymore. Some people still have them and use them. Mm-hmm. There used to be, it may be a myth, I don't know, but they used to say, do you notice how, sorry to interrupt, but using the back of the knife, not the blade of the knife, to scooch that around, because you don't want to dull the edge of the knife. They used to say, like when I went to culinary school a million years ago, they would tell us that the garlic presses would make the garlic bitter. It extracted it too brutally, with too much force, and that it would make it bitter. And I don't know, I guess I've sort of taken that with me throughout these many years later. So
how much salt did you just add?
So I added about a teaspoon.
Okay.
A little more than a teaspoon, good question. So that when I get to the salt addition in the recipes, I have to remember that I've already added that salt, right? So if you're reading through the recipe and you say, okay, it says to add the salt now at the end, you have to make sure and say, oh yeah, I already put the salt in with the garlic, okay? And then proper cleaning of these knives, never in the dishwasher, never in the dishwasher.
Did you hear that,
no.
Folks? Paulette will come find you.
Never, okay? So they're super easy to clean. Clean carefully. You don't want to put the blade against your towel and cut through. They're very sharp. So just soft cloth, and then before you put them back into the block, make sure you dry them off. So you don't want to put moisture back in there. Although this one has a nice little airspace between, which allows for air circulation. So that wouldn't be such a problem with this lovely block that we have. Okay, so there's the garlic paste. we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remove this, and I always put a little wet paper towel underneath my cutting board so they don't slide around, or a kitchen towel works also. So we'll just put the garlic off to the side. And we're gonna put these lovely steaks off to the side. We're not quite ready to start those yet. And then we're gonna make the compound butter. So we have a 1/2 cup or 1 stick of unsalted butter here. And I've been softening it today, so I'm just gonna mash it up. It's nicely softened. We're getting some warm weather here in the Pacific Northwest, finally.
At long last.
Not dry, but warm, right?
Oh, I'm seeing some cherry blossoms come out.
We're seeing signs of spring.
Are y'all seeing signs of spring in the chat? And I feel like date night steak to me is always like a winter thing because it's so indulgent, but why not have a little bit of a delicious slice of meat?
And Thursday's a good date night too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always think Thursdays are good.
It's like the best one.
Right before the weekend.
It's the fake weekend. And then Friday feels
There
even
you
more
go.
like a weekend. It's perfect.
Parmesan cheese, Worcestershire sauce. Say that 10 times as fast as you can. We have some Dijon mustard, and then an anchovy. So all the Caesar salad, I love a Caesar salad as well. And with Caesar salad and steak, oh my gosh, it goes so well together. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this board back because it's all going in the same place. We're gonna put the anchovy down there. And anchovies are also salty, so remember, when you're adding salt to things, whoops, sorry, put that off to the side here. Remember salty ingredients as well when you're adding salt, like, oh, I'm putting anchovies, I have Parmesan cheese. So here we go, we're doing the smashing again with the knife. The anchovy's gonna go a little nicer, a little easier than the garlic. It's softer. So look at how that just turns that right into a paste. You have no reason to buy anchovy paste when you can do it that fast, right? No reason.
No, none at all.
No, you pay more for anchovy paste. Also, the anchovy paste is typically, it's like not as nice. It's like the little trimmings off the anchovies that go into the can, so it's not as desirable. So you can get the nice anchovies and then just make your own paste, just like that. And then we'll add a little bit of this garlic. And little lemon zest. So we're gonna take a lemon, it's washed, and just take the skin, the very, very outside, down to where it starts to turn white, and that's where we stop, because the white part is called pith, P-I-T-H, and it's very, very bitter. It's very astringent. Plus, what a word, right? Pith. Does it sound like it would taste good? Pith. No, it doesn't. So we just go down to the white, to the pith, and then we stop. And then we're gonna put a little color in here too. We're just gonna put a little fresh chopped parsley. Now, parsley's not a traditional ingredient in Caesar salad, but it adds a nice little green color to this. And
Sometimes
flavor,
we eat with our eyes.
a little bright, right? What else could you,
Exactly.
what other herbs could you use? Chives.
Ooh,
I would stick with some mild
Terrible.
herbs.
it sounds like Paulette made this last night.
Yeah.
And of course, when you make compound butter, you don't just want to use it once. You want to have that for, a couple days. How long could we keep this in the fridge?
Oh, you could keep this for a long time.
That's perfect.
Yeah, you could.
Paulette said that she spread it on some butter, spread the butter on some bread, just
Yes.
for a little snack. I can't imagine anything better.
Yeah, I would definitely, you can keep it in the freezer for months and months, wrapped tightly in the freezer for a long time. And then, absolutely, I love that on bread. What about pasta?
Yeah, that's
What about
it.
when you
That's
finish
the
pasta and
one.
just put a little bit on top and melt it in with your pasta? Or like a lovely risotto dish and then just stir it in at the end for a little added boosted flavor. Tons of things, right? What about an omelet? Yeah, I mean, so many uses, and it does keep a long time. Long time. We keep butter in our freezer for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure we do. Okay, and that's it. Dijon mustard. We forgot the Dijon mustard. Caesar salad's gotta have
That's
Dijon
like
mustard.
an umami bomb.
Seriously, right?
So good.
Seriously.
Deb in the chat is saying that she makes a log and cuts it into pats and freezes it that way. That's exactly what we're doing today. But
And
keeping it in
freezes the
log.
pat so you can take out the individual pat. We have
smarter, not
smart
harder.
viewers.
Oh my God, Paulette, don't even say grilled cheese right now. It's insane.
That's funny. Okay. So we're ready to form this. I'm going to use a little piece of parchment paper and a rubber spatula and just scooch it all out there once it's all blended. Also, if you can make this ahead of time, I mean, it saves you time, right? More time for your date. But if you can make it ahead of time, the flavors have a chance to what we call meld and marry, and they actually get better over time. Ooh. So if you make it ahead of time and give it some time to sit in the fridge or in the freezer, it will get better as it sits. And then I'm just going to kind of roll it up. It's very soft, very pliable. You can use check this out, another use for the back of your knife. And then keep rolling. Squeeze the ends.
What a gorgeous little parcel.
Isn't that fun?
It's like a giant Tootsie Roll.
Like a little Tootsie Roll, exactly. And there it is, good to go. And then it goes into the fridge or the freezer, and then we have one ready to go already that's had a day. I made it yesterday, a day to do its thing, and so we'll use that tonight for our steak.
All right.
Yeah, we're ready to move on unless we have any questions or more comments or your great ideas in the chat.
Questions? Just sort of saying that this date might lead to marriage if we're using compound butter.
Yeah, they do. They sometimes do, right? It's been known to happen.
Has anyone in the chat ever had a memorable first date meal that you'd like to share? I would love to know. What's your date night moment with your husband? Diana.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, I am asking you. I'm putting you on the spot. I know you guys love steak.
Oh, well, my husband took me out for dinner for our first date.
Cute.
And I was a poor, struggling college student. I was so poor. And his credit card, he took me to a nice restaurant and his credit card was declined.
Oh, that'll bond you. That'll bond you for
And
a
I
lifetime.
said, don't you have another one? And he said, yeah, I do. And then it was declined too. And I don't know if I really ever, I'm sure I got the story on that, but yeah, so I had to use my debit card or something, and I was just like,
Brutal.
oh my God. And he said, I'll pay you back tomorrow, and he did.
Oh, the trust was immediately built. That's so sweet.
42 years ago. So, yeah. So we're good.
Oh, it's so sweet.
Thanks for asking.
Love it.
Okay, oven's preheated to 350 degrees, and we are going to start this lovely, my new favorite green to go with my steak. Kale Gratin. We're using 2 different types of kale today. We're using a regular green leafy kale, and then this lacinato or dino kale, which I just love this stuff. I love them both. And so we're using a combination of the 2. Are they different? They're a little different in texture. The dino kale, the lacinato kale, is a little heartier. It's a little crunchier. And then the regular green kale is a little more tender. And a little more, it has got some little ridges on it, and so they're interchangeable for most things, as far as I know, but it's kind of fun to use them both. So I have most of it prepped. What you're going to do with your pan is we're using instead of a standard 9 by 13 inch, we're just using a round baking dish, gratin dish, which is the same volume, okay? So we're just using a different shape. And we're going to put the kale in there once we've sprayed it lightly with oil. You could also coat it with a little bit of olive oil or neutral flavored oil or a little bit of butter, but spray oil kind of gets everywhere. And then we're going to add the kale. And don't worry if it's kind of looks like a lot. So I did that. I prepped that all ahead of time, and then I saved these because I wanted to show you the whole leaf, but super simple to just tear it off of the tough stem, and then you can just compost the stem. We're just doing like 2-inch pieces. It's going to cook and shrink down, so it doesn't really matter. It's not critical.
Such an easy way to get your greens in when you're having an indulgent meal. It's sort of the guilt. Even if you put a little cheese on top, make it bubble, it's still green underneath.
Yep.
It's still happening.
Absolutely. And then we're going to just sprinkle a little bit of salt So again, we're gonna go kind of easy because it's gonna shrink up, and we've got a lot of salt going on and other things. And then we have our cheese. We'll do our cheese in a minute. I wanted to show you the shallot first because we're gonna work on our mincing again with the shallot. Now with the shallots, we could use, we're gonna start with this other knife.
What are your thoughts on baby kale for this one? Great question, Stephanie.
Baby kale would be delicious. It'd be great. But you're probably going to pay a little bit more for baby kale than you would. And since you're kind of tearing it up and you're baking it with all this stuff on top of it, if the cost is higher per pound, I would go this route. It's a little more time.
It could also, I mean, this dish I feel like would also be great for that wilted sort of sadder kale in the back of your fridge that you can sort of throw in and give a new life.
You've got
like,
it.
Just if it's wilting, it's now gratin.
That's
nailed
what it is. You nailed it. Yeah, and throw in that wilted spinach and stuff too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, throw that in too.
I have some in my fridge.
This is a pretty big size shallot. So I'm not going to use the whole thing, but I am going to show you how to mince it. So we're going to use this santoku and cut you know how you hold a knife too? It's always good to just review that. No matter the size of the knife, no matter if I'm using the chef knife or this smaller, I want to grip, my thumb is literally on the blade, not the sharp part, but the blade, and I'm holding it. This is the pinch grip, okay? This is I feel very safe, very stable like this. So same thing with the larger knife. You want to really have the handle back there and feel really solid in this grip. If you're holding back here, you really don't have a lot of stability, okay? So even if it feels awkward at first, I really encourage you to really practice this. And this, no judgment whatsoever, but I see this a lot on a knife with this finger up here. This is also going to be a little challenging to cut, and awkward, and not really good for your finger. So you want to get away from this. If you have a habit of that, it's going to feel really awkward at first, but you want to sort of move away from that if at all possible. So we'll use this nice little santoku. We'll cut the sprout end off. So not the root end, but the sprout end of the shallot. And these are from the onion family, and they're readily available, easy to find, and lovely in salad dressings, casseroles, pastas, all kinds of things. I'm going to go ahead and cut the root end now, but not too deep because I want these layers to all stay together. Okay, so if I cut too deep, the layers are going to come.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, onions, same thing. Same method.
And Chad, do we know why onions make you cry? Do we know why?
Well,
this is what Paulette taught me a few classes ago.
Oh,
if your knife's dull, you're gonna be crying.
Yes, you're absolutely, gonna be crying. Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna cut across this way for a mince. Very carefully, I'm putting the weight with my hand down. My fingers are not down here where they could get in the way, and I'm getting down at eye level so I can see across. And I'm pulling out. I'm not going all the way through. Okay, I'm just going to about 3/4 of the way, and I'm gonna come up a little bit. Make another, this is a beautiful knife for this. It's very thin. It's working really, really well. Okay, so I've made all those cuts this way. Then I'm gonna hold it together. I'm gonna come down this way, holding the layers together, holding the shallot together, across. And again, I'm only gonna use about half of it, so I'm only gonna cut halfway down, and then I'll save the rest of the shallot for another use. Okay, and then if we look at how neat and tidy that is. Has anybody ever cut an onion? I've done this, where the onion pieces are everywhere. They're flying all over the place. So look at how when you do this method like this, and you have a sharp knife, the onion's not flying all over the place. So we're gonna come down. Look at that nice little mince. So a mince is really, really small, like like a 16th by a 16th of an inch. So really, really small. Do they all have to be exactly the same? No. They all just need to be really tiny. Look at that. That knife did a beautiful job on that. I think actually much better. Often I use a chef knife for this, but because it's bigger, the end result comes out a lot nicer, a lot smaller. I really like that knife for this task. So we're gonna put those shallots on top of our kale. So we've got salt on there. We're gonna put the shallots, just sprinkle them in there. And a little pepper. I'm gonna start turning my steak pan up because we're getting close to wanting to sear those beautiful ribeyes, bone-in ribeyes. So pepper, and then the cheese we're using today is, we have 4 ounces of sharp white cheddar. We have 4 ounces of this French Gruyere.
Yum.
Yeah, that's the cheese that they put like on top of French onion soup, the Gruyere.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
And then I'm not gonna put all the Parmesan. I'm gonna save a little Parmesan for the top to help with the browning. Let's just mix that cheese up. And then I'm gonna put about 3/4 of the cheese on top of the kale, all in the pan, right? Which is so nice, I love that.
One pan always,
One
one pan for
pan.
life.
And then toss that around with my favorite kitchen tools, besides the knives, my hands, as long as they're clean, free of cuts. They're my favorite tools.
Oh, I just love Stephanie in our chat. She said, nice mise en place, Chef Meg. That's exactly right. Chef Meg did have a little something to do with this dish.
Yeah, she can tell. Okay, and then we have our cream mixture. So we have 1.5 cups of heavy cream, and we're gonna whisk that. And then I'm gonna add some fresh nutmeg.
Nutmeg is always that secret thing. It gives such a little bite. I love it with Gruyere.
I do too.
So good.
Nutmeg is so good with cheese and cream.
That's
right?
the one.
With
yeah.
cheese and cream. It's so good. Cheese and or cream, or both.
or perhaps.
But I
potentially both.
love buying, you can buy spices now in bulk, and just buying the fresh nutmeg. It's really different than if you buy it ground. I don't know, I have nutmeg that I've had for a long time. And I use a fair amount of nutmeg, but it's been in my spice cupboard for a long time. And I should, you know, like a container of it. And in hindsight, I was like, I should have just bought like 1 nutmeg. And then we're gonna add our garlic. So, all that? Yeah, right? Why not? We made that beautiful garlic paste. Remember, the salt's in there, so I'm not adding any extra salt. I just add a little bit on the kale, and we mix that up. And then we just pour that on top. And you know what else I love about this gratin? A lot of times when you find a dish like this that has like the addition of eggs or flour or some other binder, this doesn't. It's just heavy cream, the garlic, the salt, the nutmeg. Pour that on top. And then breadcrumbs, panko breadcrumbs. Recipe calls for 1/2 cup. I wouldn't go more. You could go less if you didn't want to, but they are actually really good because they get crispy and crunchy on there. The end result. And then that little leftover bit of Parmesan cheese for our gratin.
This is a great question for you, Diana, because I know you just came back from traveling. Where do
I
people
forgot to put this
usually
in.
buy a nutmeg or nutmeg generally?
Many grocery stores will carry it in the bulk section.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I see it.
Have you ever traveled and picked some up from abroad?
I have not.
I've heard some of our chefs are like, oh yeah, I went to this tiny town and met this artisanal seller and got a single nutmeg, probably more than just one.
Yeah.
But Chef Alex was talking
Oh,
about
what a fun experience, right?
Yeah.
What a fun experience. I did pick up some green cardamom palms, though, in India. I was in India last week.
Yes,
Yeah.
she was. So exciting.
So I'm gonna put this off to the side for a moment. Actually, no, let's put it in. Let's put it in. There we go. And it's gonna shrink down, it's gonna cook down. And we do have a one that we made earlier to show you, since that one probably won't be done by the time our steak is done. All right, so shall we cook these beautiful ribeyes? I'm gonna go ahead and get them started, and then we can just talk a little bit more as they're cooking.
Awesome.
So we're gonna start with a neutral oil. I want a really hot pan. I want a good caramelize, a good sear on these. So hot pan, a neutral oil. We're using a avocado oil. You could use a canola, vegetable, safflower, any of those would work. And just gonna make sure that they don't touch. And I think this pan is gonna be big enough that they'll have just enough space. Oh, that was so close, so close. Like they have this much room between them. And we're not gonna touch them. So the mistake a lot of people make is when they're grilling or trying to get caramelization, good crust on something, is you wanna play with it. You wanna push it, play with it, move it around. You just want to leave it so that it can develop that nice exterior, okay? Really, we want a crispy, brown caramelization on the outside. So meat actually has sugars in it. What we're doing is we're caramelizing the sugars in the meat. So just let it be, don't mess with it. About 2 minutes, I think, for these ribeyes. They're pretty big. They have the bone in, and usually when the bone is in, it's gonna take a little bit longer to cook. 2 minutes per side. We have our seasonings already in our butter, so I'm not gonna add any additional salt or pepper right now. I'm just gonna let them do their thing for about 2 minutes. Adjust the heat as necessary. If I start getting a lot of smoke and I see the oil's really starting to deteriorate, I can turn it down a little bit, or I can just move the pan off the heat for a moment.
We have
Mary,
a
do we
question
have
in
something?
the chat. Yes, it actually came to my mind as well. So Deb asks, do you live with all the splatter chaos? I hate the mess this makes of my cooktop and kitchen. Any tips? I have a splatter screen. Is that like child's play?
Splatter screens are helpful. You know what my favorite, okay, I'm so glad you asked this question. You know what I do? Of course, it depends on how you're set up at home and weather dependent. I do it on my grill. I have an outdoor grill at home, and I will take a cast iron skillet out to my grill and do it outside.
Nice. Okay, what if it's snowing, there's 6 feet of snow? I don't know why, because we're in Seattle, but imagine that. How would you do it inside?
I might, but if you don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the splatter screen, or sometimes if your stove is set up in this way, where you could put some paper towels without catching on fire, obviously, around. Sometimes that helps a little bit. There isn't any way around it really that I know of. But I bet some of our people will come up with some ways.
Well,
Let's see.
Paulette said that the Schmidt brothers' cutlery solution to this problem is to install acrylic on our knife blocks, on the Schmidt brothers' knife blocks.
I can't hear because of all my sizzling over here.
The acrylic that are on some of the Schmidt brothers' knives blocks the splatters from hitting both the knives and the wood. It's as though they thought of everything.
Oh,
as
my
though
goodness.
they've been working with splatters.
Seriously.
And the acrylic can be removed for easy cleaning. That was going to be my next question. Thanks, Paulette. Yeah, you can really hear that. I don't know if you guys can catch it on the chat moderator.
Yeah, they're doing
mic,
really nicely.
Yeah.
I didn't use the larger burner, which I'd get a little more even caramelization if I had used the larger middle burner, but it just didn't seem to work for the class tonight, so I didn't do it. But but you can see where the hot part is on the stove. This one here we'll use for our first taste test. It's got really nice caramelization on it. We're gonna continue to just let it cook. Again, the ribeye has some good meltable fat on it. So the meltable fat, we can see it's adding to the pan, creating all this deliciousness, okay? Meltable fat is good fat. It melts out. And the ribeyes, typically when you buy them, they don't have any of that fat on them that you need to trim away before cooking. It's all meltable fat. So yeah, they're coming along really nicely. And then let's take a look at the compound butter. So this is the one that had a chance to sit. And you can either unroll it like this, and I love the idea of slicing it ahead of time, and then freezing those little portions. Or if you're gonna use a bunch of it, you can just cut it here. Sometimes, and I'm not really opposed to this, people wanna cut through the wrapper. And let's see, this serrated knife maybe. And you can keep it stored in the parchment paper and just cut through the wrapper, and then this could be obviously put a piece of plastic or something over it and just keep it in there. So lots of different ways to use that. Also, what about putting it into a piping bag and piping it out?
Oh.
In little rosettes.
Oh,
it's date night,
so cute.
Date night should be special, right?
Love that. I love that.
So that's an option as well. But it's absolutely delicious. And make more. Make more so that you have it on hand, because I love that idea of some of the uses we talked about using it for. Okay, so I think we're getting close, but first I want to baste this steak a little bit. We're going to add into the pan, we're going to add some butter because it's date night. So we're going to add some butter. We're going to add some herbs. I have fresh rosemary and fresh thyme, just a little bit. Those are strong herbs, so just a little bit. And then we're going to take our heavy-duty chef's knife and smash the garlic cloves. No more mincing, we're just smashing them. And then we're going to add those.
And why would we prefer a smashed garlic clove here over minced garlic?
So the minced garlic, a good question. The minced garlic would have a tendency to maybe burn in here and give it a bitter flavor. And the smashed garlic just releases the flavor. And all that garlic flavor is just going into our basting liquid.
Nice.
Yeah, good
Science,
question.
people, science.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. And then we'll just use this. Lovely. Oh my gosh. Who's excited? Who's excited? I'm excited.
Me. Wow, that crust already looks so good.
Doesn't that look good?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I'm going for a medium rare on this one. This one's a little bit thinner. It's gonna be ready a little bit sooner before the other one. But you cook it to your doneness. You know, medium rare, you can use a thermometer if you want to. A meat thermometer. Sometimes on a smaller steak like this, it's hard to get a good internal temperature. But you can try that. A lot of times you can just press into it. And you could also just take it, put it on a cutting board, you know, thinking that it's where it should be, and cut into it. And if it's not done, just put it back. It cooks pretty quickly. Put it back in the pan for a little bit. I always tell people cook under rather than over. So you can always cook something more, but you take one of these beautiful ribeyes and overcook it, and you just kind of, I'm sure it's gonna be good anyway, but maybe not as good as the temperature that you wanted it at. Maybe you wanted it rare or medium rare. So just be cautious, and I always err on the underside, because you can always cook it more. Okay, so we're just about ready to go here. We're gonna get all of our components out. And let me see, I have a steak cutting board here. Put that little piece of paper towel underneath. And check on the gratin, the one that we've finished already. Oh my gosh, it looks so good.
Oh man, the reveal. Whoa.
Look at that. Brown,
oh man.
nice gratiné, brown and crispy. And ideally, we would want to let the steak just sort of rest. And you know, I turned the pan off, and so it's just been kind of sitting there and resting, so that when we cut into it, the juices don't just all run out. So if you can let it sit for 3-4 minutes or something, that's always a nice little tip before you cut into it.
I've always heard it's about half the time that you spent cooking it.
Half the time spent cooking it. Oh.
I don't know if that always works. I'm pretty impatient.
What about if it's a turkey for Thanksgiving?
Such a great question. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same thing for turkey.
Not to call you out or anything, but what if it's a what
yeah,
if
you can tell I haven't been in charge
hours?
of the turkey. I've been in charge of things like the gratin and the sides.
Well, look, this is what you can bring to your next, right?
Exactly. If you think I'm not, you're crazy.
So I'm going to cut off this bone, and I would personally, even on a date night, I mean, you know, I would pick the bone up and eat off the bone. Would you, Mary?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not trying to, you know, be someone I'm not on a date.
So I'm not going to get rid of that.
Oh yeah, Paulette, we'll save the crispy bits for you. We'll send them in the mail. No, we have to get you out here. We're working on it.
And then I'm going to leave all that fat. I'm not going to trim any fat off. If you want to work around it on your plate, that's fine. That's up to you. And look at this nice
wow, that overhead shot.
This nice thin blade just slices through it like it's butter. Look at that. Yum. Cutting on the bias, and this nice little santoku does a really nice job with that. If the steak was any bigger, I'd probably switch to the chef's knife. But because of the size, this is working really, really well. We don't have to do the whole thing, but we are going to incorporate that bone onto our plate. And this is how I like my steak. It's pretty rare. But especially a ribeye, I just don't like to overcook it. But you could definitely cook it longer. And we'll fan that out. And then, while it's still warm, let's take our nice little paring knife
Why are we cutting on the bias?
Cutting on the bias is something that, well, it's because it's date night, first of all, right? It's because it's fancy. It's fancy. It's date night. And it's something that actually that restaurants do to make things look bigger, portions look bigger, and to make it look fancier, to make it look nicer. So you
can sort of fan them out to take up more space on the plate and sort of play a trick on your eyes.
Yeah, and it's easier to eat. It's easier for... Yeah.
This is also a great trick if you're trying to work on your portion sizes.
It is. It is.
You can always trick your own brain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we have our beautiful little fresh parsley, which I always like an edible garnish, but I would eat that. I love parsley. I'll eat a parsley salad. And then we have our gratin.
I can hear the crunch.
Could you hear it? Could you hear the crunch? Right?
Can you guys hear the crunch in the chat of the gratin? I'm curious.
Look at that. Creamy, yummy, deliciousness. Look at that. Yum. Okay, now the part I really, really hate.
Sorry we make you do this
here.
Yeah,
I know. How are we doing? Everybody happy? Everybody excited?
Great. Folks are sadly, if they're not eating steak like us in the studio, they are eating Cocoa Puffs at home. And that is true. If it's made with love, like Paulette says, it matters. It matters.
I love this. This is such a great job. I just love the people that come and you cook and you know, here I'm like dressing on camera and you don't even care. It's like
so cute. Also, I love a pink apron for date night. People were mentioning that as well.
So these two things, I test this at home. They're really good together. Really, really, really good. And you could use, a different cut of meat if you wanted to. I'm gonna come in here and get a bunch of this Caesar butter.
This is the anatomy of an incredible bite. What's about to happen?
Oh my gosh. That is so, so good. I'm gonna take a much bigger bite when I'm finished, but I don't wanna be sitting here eating in front of all of you for that long, but it's so good. This gratin, oh my God, crunch. It's so creamy and delicious. And as you mentioned, Mary, what a great way to get your greens in.
Seriously,
right?
Seriously. You can be indulgent, but still be a little bit responsible. There's a way. And this is, as your mouth is full, remember that this class we focus on mincing and paste techniques, so that allows all of these flavors to really mingle. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And so all of the, the paste that we did, like with the anchovy and the garlic and the salt, and then smashing the garlic, and then the nice mince, and how the thin-bladed knife worked really, really well for that mince. I loved that. So absolutely. And all these knives are available on the website, so that's in the link, right?
Exactly, yes. And Paulette's thrown out the link a couple times. I can throw it out in the chat as well. And don't forget about our giveaway on class day. Let's see, what day is that? On the 24th, I believe. And you have to attend that class in order to be involved in potentially winning a $250 valued knife set. That's
I'm
amazing.
coming.
Okay, great. Well, Diana will be here, and
maybe
I'll
I'm
be here.
teaching. I don't know. I might. And recipe for that class.
That will be in the club in our in the cutting edge.
Yeah. But what are we making?
Oh, for that class, we are. It is a surprise.
Oh, next week. Okay, next week too. Sorry.
On April 3rd, we're making spicy tuna rolls. So talk about knife skills, and it's going to be so gorgeous.
That's with the sunamono salad.
Yes, that's with the sunamono salad.
All that slicing, that thin slicing with the sunamono. Yes, I'm coming to that one too.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for coming. Your cutting edge is waiting. Get it today. Bye.
See ya.